My name is Nour Alhussaini. I'm the manager of special projects at NAAB, and this is my colleague.
Hi, I'm Terron Scott. I'm the Director of Credentialing Services at NAAB. We are EESA, it's just the two of us. So while I think a lot of people think that there may be, a number of people working behind the scenes with EESA, it's really Nour and I. So we're happy to be here tonight to kind of give you as much insight to the process as possible for anyone that's thinking about going through it, and just to help you navigate so that if you do decide to apply, you'll know what things to make it just a little bit more smooth for yourself, as it can be a little daunting to complete depending on how easily accessible some of the requirements are for you to get.
So we're going to start with a little introduction about EESA. EESA is the Education Evaluation Services for Architects. The National Architectural Accrediting Board provides this service for licensure candidates who are trying to satisfy the education requirements in a jurisdiction that requires an NAAB accredited degree, and they hope to get licensed in that jurisdiction. So when EESA is accepted, those people have the opportunity to still satisfy the education requirements even if they don't have an NAAB accredited degree. And EESA, of course, is being done against the NCARB Education Standards. Right now we have the 2016 Education Standards. The people who are eligible for EESA is anyone who attended at least 64 semester credit hours in school, and also is able to provide their official documents from the school to for us to have and do the evaluation, which is usually transcript and course descriptions.
Which sounds relatively easy, fair enough to get, right? It's not always as easy, and so we're hoping that through this process, the information that we give you will be able to help you kind of navigate that a little bit.
This actually is just a plan for how the EESA application process from the NAAB end. I'm going to skip this and go to the next slide to give you an idea how is it from the applicant's end. So it starts with establishing the NCARB record. Of course, NCARB is the National Council of Architectural Registration Boards, for those who don't know what NCARB is. And it's easy to start a record. It can be done online on their website. And then after that, you need to fill in the education information for your education credentials. And after that, if the jurisdiction is requiring an NAAB accredited degree and accepting the education evaluation services for architects, then NCARB is going to send the invitation for EESA. So people can follow the instructions in that invitation. It's usually an email that you would receive from them, or it's going to be a hyperlink that is going to be shown in the education tab. And after that, the applicant would be able to pay the EESA fee. And at that point, the information about this applicant transfers to NAAB office, and then we would have the information about what schools this person attended. And at this point, the applicant would be able to send NAAB office the transcript and course descriptions for their education. We have something that a lot of people may not know about. NAAB provides some international services, and one of those international services is substantial equivalency. Also, NAAB is a signatory at the Canberra Accord. So when we have an EESA applicant who graduated from a substantially equivalent program, or who graduated from a program that is accredited by one of the signatories of the Canberra Accord, those people get 50% discount of the EESA fee, and they get an expedited review. So after we receive the transcript and course descriptions from the EESA applicants, they will need to wait until the evaluation is complete, and the time frame is 30 to 45 days approximately. And I think Terron will explain more about the rest of the process.
Right, thanks. So once the evaluation has been conducted, you will receive an actual letter stating the results of your evaluation, which will come to your NCARB account. A lot of people call us like, hey, I haven't gotten my letter. They don't realize that it's in their actual NCARB education account. And the letter will either tell you that you've met the education standard and you have no other work on that needs to be done on the EESA front, or it will say you're deficient in the following areas. And then it will list out the areas where your credits do not meet the requirement for that specific area. And Nour and I will get into a little bit more detail with that, so to bring that for full circle in a little bit. So once you receive that, you can then look and see what kind of coursework you may want to partake or actually enroll in taking, or depending on what type of deficiency you have. If you have deficiencies in the area of general education, you could take a college level examination program. For instance, quite often English composition is a deficiency that I'd say 90% of our applicants have. And you could take the college composition CLEP exam versus taking a course to get that semester credit requirement met after you've had the evaluation. At times, people get their letter and feel that, hey, I think that I've actually met this requirement, and they ask for a reconsideration, which is of no cost to the applicant. But what is required is it needs to be done in writing within 30 days of you receiving your evaluation, and you have to make a case for why you feel that you have actually met this area that the letter is stating that you're deficient. And it will be reviewed, and then you will get another letter saying whether there have been any adjustments or whether you still had the same requirements. When you do have deficiencies, you are then required to ask for pre-approval or submit in writing a request for pre-approval for courses. And this is just to make sure that you're not out here registering for courses that may not satisfy, which nobody wants to just take courses to take. At least I don't. So you want to make sure that you would email EESA@naab.org with your request to fulfill whatever deficiencies we will review to ensure that that is an appropriate course to satisfy that deficiency, and then write you back. And once you get that, then it's okay for you to enroll, take it, and then you would then, once you successfully complete it, submit your transcripts, your official transcript, to the NAAB office. It'll be reviewed. You'll get a new update to your letter. Hopefully at that point, if you don't have any more deficiencies, then it would say, hey, you've met the NCARB standard. You successfully met the NCARB Education Standard.
This is just some data we collect. I don't know if anyone would benefit from this, but we do have some applications, as I mentioned, who falls under the substantial equivalency or Canberra Accord, and we were just providing how many we had in 2018 and 2019 up to now. Maybe I can mention here, since this is I know a lot of you may not know what organizations that Canberra, like are signatories in the Canberra Accord. In Asia, I think we have three. It's the Korean Architectural Accrediting Board, KAAB, and then NBAA, which is National Board of Architectural Accreditation. Is that correct?
I think so.
It's the organization in
It's a lot of
China, and I
acronyms.
apologize if I'm not. It's a lot of acronyms, as she said. And then we have the Hong Kong Institute of Architects, HKIA. And the other signatories are CACB, which is the Canadian Architectural Certification Board. The organization in Mexico, this is the very long one that you're seeing, ANPABEH. And we have the Commonwealth Association for Architects. That's it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So those are the signatories of the Canberra Accord. And we do have a list of the programs that are substantially equivalent on our website if anyone is interested in taking a look.
And so this is a diagram of our applications that we've received based on the country of education, and just kind of breaking down exactly the percentage that we received in 2018. Obviously, we're still in 2019, so this is just to give you a feel for total year. And obviously, based on this, Europe is coming in at 27%. My eyesight is horrible. Latin America at 19%. What's the other one that I really am struggling to see next to that?
So the first one is foreign educated, attended a U.S. university, college, or community college. So
Yeah, but
in the U.S. And
27.
then this is the 27, and then the 19 is Latin America, and then after that is Europe.
My bad. Okay,
Yeah.
the colors are getting me.
Yeah, it's kind of far.
And then 13.5% is Middle East. So as you can see, it's going down, and but it gives you a better understanding of where in Asia is 6%. So again, this is based off of last year in its totality. So once 2019 is finished, we'll have a different set of numbers to go off of, but this is where it was in 2018. And the year before. So there's not much variation, slight tad, but not a lot. So you hear us talking about the NCARB Education Standard, which is based upon the NAAB accreditation conditions. And so NCARB has created a standard in which anyone who applies to EESA is now required to meet these specific requirements, which they feel would then make the degree, would substantiate saying that the degree is equivalent to a NAAB accredited degree, because these things are based off of the NAAB accreditation conditions. So in total, we're looking for 150 semester credit hours to meet it, and it's broken down into 6 areas. General education, you need 45 hours. 3 hours of that for a minimum are required in English composition, which I spoke about earlier. And then you have others, which there is not a minimum or a maximum within that general education area, but they all have to total 45 hours. History and theory and human behaviors, 12 hours. You can see the breakdown for minimums for that area. I'm not going to read through all of them. Building practices, 27. Again, you can see the subject the categories that fall below the subject areas and what's required. Design is 42 hours. Professional practice is 12 hours. And optional studies is 12 hours. So that is where we're getting the 150 from.
So basically, ESA, when we're doing the ESA, we have to prove that our, for example, my Chinese degree satisfy this requirement, which means my bachelor's of architecture have 150 hours for each categories, right?
Not for each, well, in total.
In total.
In total. So when you send your transcript to NAAB, we're going to look at your coursework, every course, and the course description.
Okay.
See what and obviously every country may do their credit hours, so forth, differently. So there's a process for that. But what we're looking for is to read that course description to figure out where it belongs up here and how many credits we can assign to that from your transcript. So if there are areas that fall short, i.e. English composition, that would be where the deficiency would come in.
I see.
Because in most cases, you're not going to have coursework for English composition. And okay, so that's an area of deficiency that will be on the letter that you receive. But that's basically, it's a comparison.
I see.
But it's not just the undergrad degree, right? They have credits from a non.
It's not just an undergrad degree. If you have a master's degree, or even if you took, I saw someone today that had associate in, I believe it was like interior design. They had some coursework they wanted to submit. You can submit that, but what has to happen is you need to submit all of that before you can't come back and say, hey, after the evaluation's done, I have this. So it's best to make sure you have all those things together when you apply and then go that way. So.
May I see that this is a very important reference when I'm trying to translate my course or course description, because some course in other language, when they translate to English, there are multiple ways to translate.
Absolutely.
So this will be a great reference, like which direction you should.
Well, what you all would be required to do is have certified translation. And then based upon that, when it comes to us, then we're the ones that actually, do to read it and make the determination of, what fits where.
So all these courses are like architecture related.
All of them?
On this page.
No.
Except
General education is not architectural related. But that's part of the NAAB accredited degree is going to be your general education. It's pretty much a part of any accredited agency's bachelor program. They have to have, a certain amount of general education credits. So that's why that's there.
Are there any courses need to be specifically taken in U.S.?
Yeah, we'll get to that too.
Thank you.
So this is just to give an idea about how many evaluations are actually deficient and how many are meeting the standards. 80% of the evaluation are usually deficient in some areas, and only 20% would meet the standards. And I would say the 20% are usually people who probably have a master's degree in the U.S. or have completed some kind of education here, because there are some subject areas that needs to be related to U.S. things that we are going to talk about later. Most people are deficient in professional practice, and that's part of the reason too. And then the second thing is general education, which is mostly English composition. After that, we have building practices, design, history and theory, and human behavior, and only 1% optional studies. And this is the same information I was just talking about, it's just in charts.
So, the gentleman in the back asked about the deficiencies, and as Nour indicated in the previous two slides, professional practice is the highest cited area for deficiency, and that comes from, if you can see toward the bottom of the chart, under professional practice, laws and regulations, 71%, and ethics and professional conduct, 43%. Both of these courses will need to be taken in the U.S. Your laws and regulations courses, you probably did have some laws and regulations, but if they're not specific to the U.S. laws and regulations, then those would not necessarily obviously be U.S. laws and regulations. And so that's what we're looking for. So that is why laws and regulations, ethics and professional conduct, as far as the AIA code is concerned, those two are the top two, followed by the runner-up, English composition. And again, these are all things that are specific to U.S. that Nour was discussing. And the others are kind of onesie twosies, hit or miss. It just depends on the program. But these are definitely the three that we see all the time.
Excuse me. Just wanted to ask if by the end of the event, is there a way to get a copy or download this presentation?
Oh, we can get you a copy of it.
Okay.
We can send.
We were sharing
Send me a copy.
Also, maybe better than this presentation, a very important document that people always neglect to look at is the NCARB Education Guidelines. It's on the NCARB website. It has like the education standards that you just saw previously in this presentation, and it tells how many credits in each category and subject area are required. And it also explains about like each category, what is it covering, what are the acceptable topics, and also how to satisfy your deficiencies in that area. So we recommend that everyone looks at this.
Yeah. And it looks like a lot, and most of it may not even be pertaining to EESA directly, but the latter part of the document is focused on EESA. It goes through from A to Z on, the process, what your options are for reconsideration, and things of that nature. So for whatever reason, I think it is an NCARB document, so it's not anything that's on our website. And I guess most people, when they think about EESA and knowing that it's done through the NAAB, they don't necessarily think about, okay, this document being available. So definitely recommend reviewing that.
Could you guys share the link for that information?
I'm sorry?
Could you share the link?
The
Yeah,
NCARB
NCARB,
Education
yeah.
Guidelines. If you just go to ncarb.org and then click on data and resources on the top of the page, on the right there is like a long list. I think in the middle there is guidelines. If you click on guidelines, the last document on the page is the NCARB Education Guidelines.
Okay, I will try to find it and share to the group.
Or you could just search for education guidelines. If you
Sure.
go to the website, and it'll come up.
Okay.
Excuse me, I have a question. For example, if I have deficiencies in laws and regulation, in the last two, if I want to register for a program, is it possible? Is there a school or college that provide just this course or to you, so you can just register for this course, or you have to register for the whole program at one?
That's a great question. And the answer is there are some schools that do. We're working, one of the board's initiatives that they're trying to kind of get kicked off the ground is getting more partnership from schools to understand that there is a market out here for taking one course versus a whole program. But there are some, you have Boston Architectural College, Lawrence Technological University, Academy of Art, Southern Illinois University. Those are 4 right off the top of my head that I know allow you to just take courses.
Is there some in DC area? In DC? No.
Can you do online courses?
Yeah, so the
Those-
reason she mentioned is because
They're
those
online
are
too.
providing online programs, and one course or a couple courses of the program would be relevant to these categories. But usually if like any person would contact the school, and I feel like sometimes it's just a miscommunication between the applicant and the school when they are not able to get in. But we do have a lot of people who would contact a community college and ask about courses, and they would allow them to just enroll as a no degree track in those courses that they need. So it just needs some research. It needs like proper communication. We don't tell people where to go because we know there are too many schools and we are not advertising for one school versus another.
Right.
But if the applicant is stuck in a situation they are not finding any course, we sometimes refer to those 4 as they provide online courses.
So I have another question. So you just look at the courses, but not look at, for example, the qualities of the courses. For example, you can take the course from, for example, a very good college, and you can also have the course from a community college. But I mean, for
Well, they're all
college,
go ahead, I'm
it's
sorry.
the same thing, or
they're all regionally accredited. That's the requirement for
so they
courses.
should all
They have to be
be-
regionally accredited. So
okay.
if your community colleges are regionally accredited as well. Now they don't have the name that Harvard or Yale would have, obviously, but they're still regionally accredited. And if you're able to find a course there that once you send it to us for pre-approval that we say yes, it would satisfy it, then it would satisfy it. But I mean, oftentimes people will go to the community college route as well because the credits just aren't as expensive as your, private or state institutions. So it's not to say that one is better than the other, but you have to do what's best for each individual person. You have to.
So the point is, the course should be accredited.
The school.
The school should be accredited.
The school has to be regionally accredited.
But how do we know that? Like, should we search online?
You can in the NCARB Education Guidelines.
Oh,
they
still
have
there.
They have all the
Magic
regional
book.
accreditors listed in there.
Okay.
So when you go look at any school, you can search accreditation. Some of them have it very clear on their home pages. Some it's a little more hidden. But if you put in accreditation, they will have their accreditation listed somewhere. And then you can verify that it's a regional accreditor before because that's what we're going to do anyway. I mean, I would love to say that I know every single school in the world, in the United States, that's regionally accredited, but there are just too many. So if there's something that I'm not familiar with, that's what I do.
Okay.
And then I'm like, oh, okay, well, it's regionally accredited. Let's see what the course description looks like. And then we go from there. Austin Architectural College, Southern Illinois University, the Academy of Art University, and Southern. Did I say Southern Illinois?
Yeah, Lawrence.
Thank you.
Lawrence Technological.
Okay.
Sorry, I've been at work since 7 o'clock this morning.
Lawrence
Okay.
Technological University. But it's not limited to these 4
Right.
schools, as we mentioned.
Right.
It can be any other school.
As long as they're regionally accredited. These are just ones that we know offer a good number of these courses and are online, so it's not holding you to any geographic area to attend, to enroll. And this is the same information, just in a chart.
So we actually finished our slides here, but maybe we should say that since we talked about the deficiencies anyway, just mention some more information about all, like whenever you want to enroll in a course after you have deficiencies and you want to satisfy them, all requests needs to get pre-approved by NAAB office. So the process for that is just after you find the course, and again, in the NCARB Education Guidelines, they tell what are the requirements for each category and subject area. So based on that, you need to find a course and then send it to us via email. The email address would be eesa@naab.org, and we look into it. We try to respond as quickly as we can, but we review them in the order they are received. So sometimes it might take a day or two, but you will get the answer. And when we confirm, you may then enroll to be sure that this will cover your deficiencies and not like just enroll in a course and then it's not covering it. And for the English composition, I think you mentioned that, Terron. The CLEP exam is approved. Only the college composition exam is approved. There is another exam called the college composition modular. It's not approved. So this also still to be sent to us for pre-approval.
Right.
But this is an option for people who don't want to take a course in English composition. They can just take the exam.
Right. Right. And you would still get the credit. So it's
Is it a nationwide exam? So you just register for the exam, or you have to,
yeah, you
to
would just
register under a school?
No,
No.
you don't need a school.
Right.
It's through the College Board, and in the NCARB Education Guidelines, there is a hyperlink when you reach, I think it's probably page 25, how to satisfy your deficiencies in general education. It's saying this exam is approved, and there is a hyperlink to go to the website.
And he has exams like the TOEFL or like the
that's in
IELTS.
that's in process. We're
Yeah.
working on trying to get those accepted, but right now, as it's currently stated, no. But that is in the works. So we're hoping maybe within the next year to get that approved. So that, because we do know that there are a lot of people that may not obviously have the English composition coursework, but have passed those tests, and why those wouldn't be as accepted as anything else was kind of baffling to us. So we took it to make a recommendation in hopes that it will be accepted, and then those things will also be, those tests will also be accepted to satisfy that. So hopefully sooner than later. But
You haven't mentioned the price for the,
For the exam,
not for the exam, for the whole process.
oh,
Approval.
Yeah.
the EESA fee is $2,225. For people who are qualifying for the 50% discount that I talked about, it's 50%, so it's $1,112.50. And this fee is usually paid through your NCARB record. We know it's not an easy number, but that's how it's regulated. But I mean, you just need to. So the fee includes like everything in the process. So I'm mentioning that because I have people asking me, do I need to pay when I need to satisfy my deficiencies or anything like that? No, you don't need to pay. You just do like that one-time fee. You only need to pay if you, for example, get your result, have some deficiencies, and then don't do anything for more than 12 months. Then we do charge a reinstatement fee, $250. But in general, if you are in touch with us and if you are enrolling in classes and keeping your application active, you don't need to pay anything.
So if, for example, if the process lasts for 2 years, also just, we keep in touch,
Yes.
and still I just pay the 2,000, I mean.
Right, the initial fee, if you're in those 2 years, you're in touch with us, you enrolled in classes, and you're submitting the transcript after like each semester when you're finishing them, we would not charge you. But if you are not doing anything to your application, then you will have some fee to reinstate it.
I think what happens often, and it may just be a lack of knowledge of the process, and which is why it's good that this meeting is taking place. People apply and then realize they have to go through a whole lot to get course descriptions or even the transcripts. Some people really have to go through a lot to get their transcripts. So they apply thinking it's going to be a 1, 2, 3 and done. And then they find out that it's a lot more involved. So I would encourage anybody who's embarking on this process to do some research of how quickly you can get those things before you actually apply. Because believe it or not, you would think people paying that kind of money would want to get it done as quickly as possible. We have so many people who sit in our system for years and do nothing with their. And whether that's because, of course, courses cost money and, everybody's not always in a position to, spell out thousands to go, finish schooling when they've already, done some schooling. So I would say that I would encourage everyone to kind of feel that out before you apply so that when it does come time for that, you're ready. You have all your T's crossed, your I's dotted, and then it will move a lot more quickly and smoothly for you.
So is there a way to ask your advice on the email address about courses before we even apply?
That's what you need to do.
Oh, you mean apply for EESA?
So just even before I apply?
For EESA?
Yeah.
You could. I wouldn't shun anybody from doing that if you went to school somewhere and you're just not going to have English composition.
Yeah, exactly.
And you want to make sure that this English composition course will be approved. Sure. I think the most important thing in that email is just to say that I have not yet applied for EESA, because a lot of times what we do is we'll look you up in the system just to make sure, and then it's not there and we're like, So, if you just put that in the email, but the goal is not to, keep anybody hung up in the process for longer than they need to be. So if we can give you information on the front end so that you would know, okay, yeah, this course would be okay. But then we also need to have a record of that. So if you have not applied for EESA yet, there is no record. So it might seem a little redundant, but once you established a record, I would then just reach back out and say, hey, I've been previously in communication. I just want to have this in my record so that we can add it, because we can't add it if you're not in our system yet.
Also, we don't recommend, you can still ask the questions as Terron mentioned, but we don't recommend that you take courses before the EESA, because you might not have that deficiency. So you don't know for sure you have these deficiencies until the evaluation is done. And that's why you need to be a little patient and just get your result first.
Is there a requirement for the transcript sent by for example, my Chinese school, some Chinese university doesn't provide an electrical transcript, and they don't send for you. You have to go in person to apply the hard copy of the transcript.
So they have electronic, is what you're saying?
Do you have requirements? Does it
What
have
kind
to
of transcripts
have
do
to
you
send from
accept?
school, from the office, or I can send by myself?
Is it like a scanned version of the hard copy?
Yeah, or it has to be like official transcript from
It has to
school.
be official.
I mean, but it is official, but it's just hard copy.
Is that okay?
Like you have it and the school is not sending it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I
Yeah,
actually
you
have
can
few
do that.
copies, so,
Oh, can do that.
Yes, you can
Okay.
send the document by yourself unless you attend a school in the United States, then it has
Has
to
to be.
come in a sealed envelope from the school. But if it's outside, you just need to have the official transcript and you need to mail it to our office. We accept notarized copies as well. So if you want to make a notarized copy, that's fine too. But you can't just scan it or copy it and send
Okay.
us like an
Oh, so you just need a
official
copy.
copy. That would not be acceptable.
So you just need a copy of that. I don't need to send you the original one.
No, you need to
You have to.
you need to
You have
send
to
the
send
original.
the
I'm saying
original.
if you send a copy,
Official.
like a regular copy, it would not be accepted.
Oh,
But if it's notarized, then we do accept those.
Because that's the
okay,
only way that we know it's an
Authorized copy.
authentic. Anybody can make something
Make
look
up.
like, yeah.
Does
So-
it have to be sent out from the original school, the location of the school?
No.
Or like
you
I
have
can
it,
even
yeah.
send here?
You can send
You
here.
can send
Oh,
it.
that's
Yeah.
good. It's better than New York State.
How
We-
about, sorry, how about if I had it like the date is 9 years ago, for example? Does that still work?
If you have the official document from the school,
No matter
we
when
don't
I
have
got
any.
it, right? If I got it I got it 9 years ago, can I still use it?
Yeah, that's fine. It just needs to be issued by the school and not like
That's good.
like a copy of it.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, that's what you said. That's
We know that it can be challenging, when you're talking about getting things from other countries here and, you know, I know Nour encounters a lot, you know, in receiving different things. So the goal is not to try to hem anybody up and keep you caught up in the process. So yes, those things would be acceptable, but it has to physically come to the office.
And also, actually, it's a good point that you said 9 years because this takes us to another thing. Sometimes the course description, if you don't have it from the time you graduate, if you just get it from the school right now, for example, and you, the program in school has changed since the time like you attended, then we have a problem here because what we need in the course description is the courses you have taken. So whatever listed in the transcript and whatever the school was providing at the time you were in school, that's what we need. So this is a more critical, I think, issue that we have because some people would not have that document and now they graduated from school like sometimes 30 years ago and they don't know how to get this, and then they will need to go back to the school and be in contact with a lot of people, and sometimes they can get that and sometimes they can't, but if they can't get it, then we can't proceed.
Okay, so no descriptions of the courses, so no need to to apply for the
But the thing
accreditation.
is, some schools they don't provide the official like course description for their students. What should we do if
It doesn't have to be issued to the student. It's not like the transcript. It just needs to be whatever the school have in the archive. For example, from the time they taught these courses, we need usually objective outcomes of the course to just know what topics this course was covering. And that's why when you mentioned the translation, we don't just look at the name of the course. We actually look
You have
at
to
this
read them.
description so we would be able to determine what this course is covering. And then another thing that we a lot of times need is the hours or the credits. Sometimes some schools would have that in the transcript, but some other schools would have it in the course descriptions.
It has to be
So,
somewhere.
It has to be somewhere.
Because that's how we
Exactly.
determine how many credits you would be eligible for the EESA. So if we don't see contact hours or credit hours, then there's no way that, I can't just make up a number. I would love to be able to help people out to do that, but I just can't make up a number. So those are the types of things that you will want to make sure are either on your transcript and or in your course descriptions, so that we can make that determination, because otherwise I'm not going to be able to do the evaluation.
I mean, usually the transcripts is just kind of a list, the names, the courses, and also the credit you got, and so the descriptions actually a separate file. Is that right? So how is it look? How is it look?
Do you have examples for the
So it's
course
a long
description?
one, or is this it should be several pages?
No.
Short one.
So description
We've had
for
people
each
send.
course?
It's basically to give you an overview, a synopsis of what the course covers. What are you learning in the course? What are the objectives?
Okay, so just a short one.
Yeah. We don't need to see the syllabus. We don't need to know what you're doing from week to week.
For each course or in the transcript?
So it's actually kind of information that, for example, we get information descriptions for each courses and we compile it into one file. Is that right?
No. So this, I know a lot of people would go to school and graduate and not know about this document, but schools have this document. So we don't have an example, but I would maybe recommend if you go to any school website and just type course description, you're gonna find something. Sometimes they call it catalog, and they have like the names of the courses and what are these courses. But you can't just take like one and like each one and put them together by yourself. We only accept that in one situation. It's when the school have that on the website, and that is okay. You can copy them and put them together in one document, but in that case, you need to provide the link for each web page you're copying from.
Oh, okay. So otherwise you can just download it from the website?
If they have it as a PDF, you can download it. If they don't have it on the website, then they would have it as a hard copy sometimes in the school, and they would send it to you. I mean, you don't have to have a hard copy of that. If you have a PDF scan, that's fine. It's not like the transcript.
Do you need to kind of seal or something from the school, or it's just a plan?
Whatever the school provides is usually acceptable. I mean, we use our judgment in determining, okay, this is from the school. Sometimes the school would seal it. Sometimes somebody would sign on it and say like, whatever, professor or,
So
you
if
know.
the description is in other language, do I need to translate?
You need to translate.
And the
By a
translation?
certified
So you can
translator.
trust my translate?
Mhm.
You can trust my
Certified.
translation if I do
No, you need a
myself?
certified
No,
translation.
Certified. Yeah.
You need to go out and find somebody and
No.
they will do it.
So I've got a question, so let me see if I got this clear. It's possible for me to send you like my transcripts and my documentation so that you can tell me what are my deficiencies before me paying for the full fee?
No.
No.
If I submit everything and I discover that I have like 60% deficiencies, is there a way for me like to pay like a lower fee or like a reduced fee? I still have
No,
to pay for it.
unfortunately.
They don't ask for a refund.
No way to respond.
If you have too many deficiencies, then
I
there
mean,
will
we've-
be no,
We've
I mean,
seen,
no way.
Yeah, we've seen some where it's a lot of deficiencies, where it's almost like someone could enroll in a whole program
Yeah.
would
Oh.
need to do that, which is unfortunate because
What I want to know is it possible to know that before applying?
Yeah, exactly.
That's my question. Is it possible for
Compare
me to know what my deficiencies are before applying for these?
no, because in order to do that, we'd have to evaluate it. So the evaluation, and again, we've kind of given you an overview of the things that are typically cited, the big things that are typically
Category.
cited, without looking individually at every transcript and every course. there's no way for us to know what you would be deficient in.
So basic logic is like we need your evaluation first, and then we know what's the deficiency.
Right.
Since you have already evaluated, which reasonable, we have to pay for your work.
Right. Yeah. We can't evaluate it without getting paid for
I
it.
think some people would overthink it. If you have attended school for a reasonable amount of time, and if you attended a good program, then you would usually not have that many deficiencies. But I mean, the case when we have too many deficiencies would be for people who went to school for like, I don't know, a couple years, or some people would go to community college and then come back and do an evaluation. And that is something I think is related when somebody is already licensed in a state, and there are states that don't require a NAAB accredited degree. So those people would not need an EESA to be licensed. And sometimes they are U.S. educated, but they attended like a community college, they have an associate degree, and then they try to get licensed in another jurisdiction that requires a NAAB accredited degree. And in that case, they come to us and do the EESA, and then they would have a lot of deficiencies. And then it would not be reasonable for them to go back to school and take all of these courses. So there are some alternative paths through NCARB, but not everyone would be eligible for that. It's just for people who are licensed for a specific amount of years, and it depends on the state as well. And we recommend that when this is the case, we recommend people to contact NCARB directly, as they would be able to provide more information. But for someone who is recently graduated from school, if you attended a good program, you would not have a lot of deficiencies.
How do you know if it's a good program?
I mean, if you have, like, for example, bachelor that is like more than 4 years, so you have taken a lot of credits, right? You would be able to know how many courses you have. Yeah.
I think another thing that can kind of catch people up is the general ed, and depending on what the specific bachelor's program that an applicant may graduate from, they may not have a heavy focus on general education.
Yeah.
So you
I
could.
don't think my program had anything to do with general, it was all architecture, so.
Yeah. So a lot of times we may come back and say, hey, looking at it, do you have any coursework, almost like college preparation coursework that you did maybe, before enrolling, that you could provide? So again, the goal is to get you to meet the education standard. So if we see a crazy deficiency in general education, 9 times out of 10, you're going to get a response that says, hey, do you have anything else that you want to submit? Because that will be a lot of courses that you would then need to take if you don't. So, 45 hours is a lot. So, but it just depends on what is being taught as part of that curriculum at that specific school. Some schools do it, some schools don't. So we've seen that. And I think with a lot of times when we see those big numbers, that's a lot of time where those numbers come from in the general education area. Not necessarily more focused, not heavy focus in the architectural area. Not saying you may not have some here and there, but just to have a huge amount of deficiencies is normally, a lot of times, I shouldn't say normal, a lot of times it comes from general education. So
You've evaluated a lot of people coming from different backgrounds. So what type of courses that you've seen you've qualified at as general education? Because they probably wouldn't be called general education.
Humanities, you have your
language,
language,
math, social science,
psychology,
yeah, that kind of-
sociology, religion, history. Those are all general education courses.
Okay, now I'm
Art.
Yeah.
Does ESA have other applications other than taking ARE?
I'm sorry, say that one more time.
Does ESA
Mhm.
have other applications other than taking ARE requirement?
ESA and ARE are different things.
I mean,
I think
other than I want to take ARE,
Oh,
what
is it-
other situations I need ESA?
Oh, you only need the ESA for to satisfy the education requirements in a jurisdiction that requires NAAB accredited degree. So if you're not trying to get licensed, you don't need an ESA.
So what if we are like taking the exams through the states not require the NAAB certificate? Is there any bad thing we're doing this without the
There are
ESA?
no bad things. You would be able to take the exam, get licensed in this jurisdiction, but then if you are trying to get licensed in a jurisdiction that requires that, then you would not be able to do it without an ESA.
But you mentioned there's like NCARB, they might have an alternative path for this kind of situation.
Well, that is only when you have a lot of experience and you've been practicing for a long time and
Okay.
you're licensed in other states, then you would be eligible for alternative path. And NCARB website is a very good source of information. If you type education alternatives, you will see that information that we are talking about. But it might be sometimes overwhelming because it's a lot
It's
of
a lot.
things and a lot of paths. Typically, if you're a young professional, just graduated from school several years ago and not licensed in any state, then it's usually this is the path for you. You'd not be eligible for education alternative. But if you're trying to get licensed in a state that doesn't require the NAAB accredited degree, then you can just proceed with what that state is requiring.
I have some people that can't attend or send me their questions.
Sure.
One is that this person has a NASL accredited landscape architecture degree. Would that help in any case? Like a 2-year master's in landscape architecture. Would that help in any case?
It would. I mean, whatever education any person has, so you need to submit like all the education
So it'd be like
credentials.
a broken down of the courses.
Right. So these courses might be counted in some areas that he would have been deficient in
Okay.
if he doesn't submit it.
So like it doesn't really matter what the degree is in. Is what seems like what's the thing? Because what she's at needing is the laws and regulations deficiency. So like if there is a course in another areas, say like hers is landscape architecture, but I'm going to try to use a different example. Say that I did accounting, like an accounting master's. It has also laws and regulations,
It
and
would
then
not
it
work.
just of interest. And so
gotta be
something that's related
architecture.
to construction law.
But there could be another deficiency that your MBA could more on the general education side. So she's saying to submit, all your education because you never know what could help
Yeah, what could
satisfy
fill the
something.
blank.
But when it comes to those specific architectural areas that were highlighted, those subject areas, everything that would receive a credit would have to have some type of architectural focus in coursework. So we have had people submit laws and regulations for business or law school and while when you hear laws and regulations, that might be what you think. We're looking at the architectural. So here's the guidelines right here. The architectural laws and regulations. So
this is what each category should cover, and laws and regulations and in general all professional practice categories should be related to the practice of architecture. So it can be business law because that is not related to the practice of architecture.
Of course, yeah.
But if it's construction law, yeah, it might be acceptable. And that's why when you said landscape might have some architecture courses, right?
Of course.
So if this person took a course related to the practice of architecture, to the laws and regulations in practice of architecture, then it will cover.
So that kind of leads me to the question. One is that I have this deficiency. I'm trying to submit a reconsideration. But in that case, like one of my courses I took in graduate school, which is taken in the United States, is really the whole course is about construction documents as a legal document, right? So in that course, laws and regulations would be inevitable to be talked about and have a huge emphasis on it.
Right.
But the course itself doesn't have laws and regulations on its title or in any of that kind of way, right? The professor will call it whatever that he or she wants to call it. They call it like just drawings ABC or whatever he or she wants to call it. So it's not obvious that it's. So would that be considered?
And I actually was going to email you tomorrow to tell you that if you have a syllabus, in this case, a syllabus would be perfect because the way that I read what you said, but all we have to go off of is what the course description says.
Of course.
So if you can get the syllabus or a syllabus from that course and submit it, and then we can look through and see what is actually discussed, then that would probably help. Because, and I understand course descriptions sometimes can be very vague because they are meant to be vague. They're not meant to be dissertations. They're meant to kind of get to what's the general idea, and they may not go down into the weeds like that. But the syllabus will.
Yeah.
So if you have the syllabus for that or can get the syllabus for that and send that, then I can review that and see where we are with that.
Gotcha.
And go from there. But I will email, I literally was
Please do email me.
I will email you, and then you can, if you can find that or get that from, your school. And that's a good thing, for people who do actually request reconsiderations. I know the thought is this course already, covers that. But always remember that the course description can be very vague, and it may not go into the weeds. So if at all possible, and I know this is from your master's program, right?
Yes.
It may be a little bit more challenging to get a syllabus from somewhere outside of the country, but that's the kind of additional documentation that we would need to be able to move the needle to hopefully helping you. But I would love to just say, well, he said that they covered this, and okay, well, I have to be able to say, hey, I reviewed this, and this is how I know they covered that in there, if it's not spelled out within the course description. So if you ever do get to a point of needing or wanting a reconsideration, those are things to kind of keep in mind of additional documentation that you could submit after the fact. Because again, we don't want I think we're shell shocked from a lot of the paper that we used to get of bounds and bounds and bounds of course descriptions and catalogs and things like that. So, in most cases, the course descriptions are enough. But then you have a case where it may not always highlight everything that's talked about in the course. And if there's something that for a fact was discussed in decent amount of length of time in the course, a syllabus, bless you, will definitely be something that could be brought into consideration to kind of make a determination of whether that can be changed.
I got another one.
Sure.
dispersed in the United States for a very long time, and just starting to consider getting a licensure, and it's asking in the kind of English requirements category. Is there a way? Because it kind of just seems if somebody has worked for 7-8 years in the English environment, passed the GRE and the TOEFL test to get here, would there be a way to kind of circumvent or, you
They
know?
can just take the clip after they do the evaluation, and that would satisfy. Unfortunately, we can't consider experience or anything else to
academic.
waive the academic credits. So
That's the
it's
problem.
required.
I'm pretty sure that most people would have some level of experience that will probably knock all this out the park and wouldn't even really be much discussion of anything. But with EESA, it's an academic evaluation, not experience. So that's the downside of.
That's all I know.
Any other questions? Okay.
I have another one. I mean, how many people are actually evaluate the applications?
2 of you?
I mean, or just-
Right now, there's 2 people right now that do it, and that's maybe going down to just one. So there's a window of 30 to 45 days for processing, and the quicker you get the materials in, the faster that you can be assigned. Because again, you can apply, you can pay your money, but we're not going to assign anything until we know we have everything that we need to be able to evaluate. So,
Any other questions, guys?
So what is the normal process you guys recommend we do? Like for example, you already share the categories of each course and the points. So should we evaluate by ourselves before we submit everything and sort of like put everything together? If we think it's kind of help us to put the things in the right category.
No,
to
because
make
you
it
would
shorter,
You would do the work of the evaluator.
So what I'm trying to say is like how do we know we're like ready or what kind of materials we're
if you have your transcripts and your course descriptions, and they have either one of them or both of them have credits or contact hours.
Okay.
You're good. You can submit. You're ready.
But that's if I have a undergraduate degree of architecture and a master of landscape architecture, for example. So should I put everything for both degrees and like make it sort of help me to get more points for each category?
We recommend that you put everything, even if you have like done first year of college, you studied science, for example, and then you switch to architecture. Submit that year because it might help your general education.
I have a question. I don't know how many people get qualified so far since the program started. I'm just thinking whether it's by any chance you have a database and we can share some documents. Maybe there's a guy, who is qualified, and we are graduated from the same college, from the same country. And maybe we can match each other's programs so that we can save a lot of time.
So yeah, it's kind of like
If it's not like confidential or it's just course descriptions.
We just come from the same school, and you have already evaluated the one.
So,
from the school, so we don't need to.
Oh, you mean for course description?
Yeah, I got stuck there right now.
Well, the course description is a document the school is providing, so the school can share that document with all people who graduate.
I don't think not all schools have the course description. Yeah, because our school we don't.
If you're saying that you have one person who graduated from your school and yourself, and that person got the course description, but you did not, then the school should share that with you too. Like, why would they share with one student?
I have been wanting to do this evaluation for 5 years. I started a kind of preparation 5 years ago before I came back to U.S. And I talked to this. I was in Beijing, and I was working in the college. I graduated. I go to different departments, schools to ask for the documents. None of them could provide official documents or any descriptions. They're all different. And for the undergraduate, they are fine. They have some materials online. And for the graduate school, most of them they're not reviewed. And at my university, I would say it is one of the best universities in China. If it is not top one, it's still in this case, in this situation. So I'm really doubt the other university could provide the same thing. And I know there's a way we can get all the documents done, but this person has to put a lot of efforts on there. If there's a person that has been there before, well, we can't use his,
Right. Well, the issue is we don't have the right to give documents for another person to you. So if you are in contact with your colleague and you know he graduated in the same year and he has the documents, you can ask your colleague to give you a copy of it. But we are not authorized to share people's documents with other people, and all evaluations are confidential. So including the documents people are submitting, so we can't have this data out to public.
I think what he's asking is actually if you have kind of a database of all the applicants, where they come from or from which program, which university they have studied, something like that. And we don't need to know the name of the applicants, the people. Actually, we just want to know, for example, there's someone from my university and almost in the same year we have studied. So, and he has passed the process, the evaluation. And for me, maybe I don't know, so, or you already have examples from that university, so maybe for me, it could be easier,
So
because the program is
what you
the
mean
same.
is maybe if we have a percentage of how many applications were meeting the standards from that university? Is
For
that
example,
what you're asking for?
may I ask you for example, if I send you an email, I ask if there's someone from this university during this year, between this year and that year, passed this progress, and you said, yes, there's one, then
you would be motivated to go through the process.
Maybe, yeah. Or maybe the process could be easier. It's not so complicated because you already have the courses, transcript. Not
It's
all.
not working that way.
Part of the problem of that is if that material was translated, then that person has probably paid to have that translated. Right?
You have to again.
So I'm not really sure that they would be happy that we're just giving other people
share,
and you're not having to have to take on the brunt of that. But I understand the sentiment of what you're asking, and I wish there was a way that we could do that, but that's just not. We just don't have the authorization to do that.
Oh, you would consider.
Well, legally, we
future.
are not authorized to share
Of course,
documents of other people. So that's why. But for your saying that to tell you how many, if there are people who pass the process, this actually depends on each person. So if you go through the EESA process, you're going to have some deficiencies. 80% of applicants would have deficiencies. So if you didn't go to school in the U.S., you didn't take laws and regulations in U.S., then you would have deficiencies. And then if you have those deficiencies and not do anything about it, then you're not going to meet the standards. But if you are having that thing that you want to do and you want to go and take the courses and satisfy the deficiencies, then you would pass the process and meet the standards. So it depends on what each person wants to do and not on the evaluation itself in that case.
I think maybe, what he's talking about might be not.
Excuse me, can I cut in question? Because I have a friend who is now waiting online here.
Oh, okay,
and
sorry.
she is already a licensed architect from another state, and she's want to transferring her license from another state to Massachusetts, which requires the NAAB. Yeah, so she wants to ask you like some few questions about that. Can you like take this call?
Sure.
Here, like, now you can speak.
Hello?
You can speak.
Can
Yeah.
you guys?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah,
Thank
she's
you very
fine.
much for giving me this opportunity to ask the question. By the way, my name is Jane. So thank you.
Jane.
So I'm a licensed architect in New York State. When I first applied the license, I don't have to participate in the accredited program since I got the BARC from and MARC both from China. So I passed the test and I got the license in New York. So right now I'm living in Massachusetts and I want to have another Massachusetts license. So now I noticed under NCARB, the transfer or whatever apply for another state license is grayed out. So this could be something that related to my educational background. I wanted to ask, other than the EESA evaluation, is there other ways that I can apply for the Massachusetts license?
This is a question for NCARB, actually, not for us. So NAAB and NCARB are different organizations.
Okay.
And we recommend that you email NCARB. Their email is customerservice@ncarb.org.
Yeah.
And there is probably a phone number on their website if you would like to call and talk to them on the phone. But unfortunately, we don't have a lot of information about how to transfer your license.
So they actually sent me back. They said, according to what their regulation, I needed to go through the evaluation process, which I bet it's your organization.
Mm-hmm. Well, if NCARB is telling you that you should do the evaluation, then that's what you should do.
About my, I don't know, maybe my educational background or maybe, so this is what I'm not quite sure. So if I go through the EESA evaluation of my undergraduate and the graduate degree that I got abroad in China, then I probably will have the same issue with other students that I will be lack of 3 credits of the code and the regulation. But since I have more than 10 years of experience and I do work on the code drawings a lot, would it be possible that to waive those 3 credits if I get a recommendation letter or kind of approval from my work colleagues?
Right. No, we don't waive credits, unfortunately. But what you can do, and I don't know if you already had the conversation with NCARB, since you're licensed in a different state, you may in that case see if you would be eligible for the education alternative and if you have a lot of experience. If they still want you to do the EESA, then you might do the EESA and then have deficiencies, and there might be another way for you to get the NCARB certificate without completing the EESA credits. But all of these things you need to discuss with NCARB.
I see. Okay. I think it's clear.
Great. Thank you.
So thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
So this is the NAAB website. It's NAAB.org. And if you go to international and go down to substantial equivalency, and if you scroll down, those are the schools who have the status of substantial equivalency.